Well, hey everybody, this is Jackson Mumey at Celebration Bar Review, and I'm very, very excited today. We are talking with one of my very favorite ex-students, ex in the sense of she passed and so she's no longer taking my class, but somebody that I really admire, really liked, and enjoyed all of my conversations with. And she has really an impressive story to tell. And she's very brave, I think, in the sense of being transparent and being willing to talk about this, because I think she's defined by successes, not her failures. But as you're going to hear in today's hangout, she had a long, hard road to passing the New York bar exam. And our guest today, and I always have to be careful as I say this, but it's Tamara Slogosky. So there you go. So hi, Tamara. It's good to have you with us. How are you?
Good. How are you? It's good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. As we're recording today, we're just a couple of weeks before the July bar exam. And you know that feeling, don't you?
Yeah.
A couple of weeks, right? What did that feel like? Do you remember back to
Yeah,
the worst feeling?
Extremely nervous. You don't want to do anything, but you know that you have to do everything. You want to get everything finished, but you don't want to rush anything. You know, I don't know. It was always very overwhelming right before the test was done, especially if you're not done with everything you wanted to get done. However, you taught me that it's not how much you do, it's the quality of the work that you do. So
there you go. There you go. I'm glad to know that lesson sunk in. Well, why don't you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about your background and what brought you to where you are right now?
Okay, so I work for a state senator. I went to college in Pennsylvania. I went to Penn State University. Then I went to law school. I started law school in Michigan, and I didn't really enjoy it there, so I transferred to a law school in New York, and I really loved it in New York. Right out of law school, I clerked for a judge. I clerked for a judge in New Jersey. I took the New York bar.
I don't know. Does that count when you clerk for a judge in Jersey?
I feel like it shouldn't count.
Boy, I'm going to catch so much hell from people for that comment. I'm going to edit that out. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right,
I had to say it.
Okay. So, I couldn't resist. I mean, okay. So you clerked for a judge in New Jersey. Then what happened?
I took the New York bar exam, and I didn't pass it. So I really didn't. I had no intention of staying in New Jersey, but it kind of looked to me like that was what was working at that moment. So I took the bar exam again in February, and in that February I took New Jersey and New York. I studied for New York. I didn't look at anything for New Jersey. I passed New Jersey and I failed New York again. So shortly thereafter, I got a job. When my clerkship was over, I got a job as a divorce attorney in New Jersey, and I enjoyed it. It was never what I planned, and then I realized that I really couldn't, I didn't want to I wasn't living in New Jersey. I couldn't really afford the commute. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So I came, I quit my job in New Jersey, and I was back in New York, and I really didn't have anything to go off of because I still hadn't passed the New York bar. So I continued to study for the bar, and I continued to take it. I took the New York bar exam 6 times before I came to you, and and I passed the first time that I took your course. So.
Okay, well, we like that part, obviously. But, to take the exam and to fail it 6 times, and you had success before, you went to good schools, you did all the right things. I want to just explore this a little bit, and I know it's not fun stuff to talk about, but I think for many of the people who are watching and listening, it's going to resonate. What was that process like? What did it feel like as you just kept getting time after time these failure letters?
Well, it was really discouraging. It made you not want to try anymore. And I think it was especially worse because I was a lawyer, but it didn't feel like it because I couldn't pass this bar exam. I didn't feel like I didn't know material. And it made you not want to work. I don't know. I was very discouraged. Like I wanted to do it, and I know that I'm not stupid. I wasn't, it's not the material that was the problem. I think that I had failed it so many times that really my biggest thing to overcome was the mentality that I had that I couldn't do it because I had failed it so many times. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the stuff that you do in your course really helped me get over that roadblock that I was having.
Yeah. Um, as you were sort of going back each time, did you find yourself repeating the same patterns, doing the same things, kind of, on the treadmill?
Yeah. So the first time I had taken it, I took like a big box review that I will not name, I guess. And I had followed everything that they said to do. I worked really, really hard that first time, and it wasn't enough. I know the first time it really hurt too because the first time I failed the New York bar, I failed it by 5 points. So it was that was a real low. It was a blow. It was a hard one to take. And then every time after, I had really found myself doing the same things, and I think that I was just less interested in studying as much as I had the first time because I felt like it didn't work the first time. Why would doing the same thing make it any better? So I feel like there were a number of times where I took the test where I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to follow something that I had learned before that I knew didn't work. So, but I really didn't have anything else to go off of. And everybody always wants to offer you all kinds of information. Oh, I did this, and you should do this, and this worked for me. But really, you have to find what works for yourself. And everybody knows themselves well enough to be able to figure that out, And with help from you, it was also it was easy. I remember a time when I think it was when our first writing assignment was due, and I had so much anxiety about giving you this first writing assignment. I don't know why. It was like I just didn't want to do it because I didn't want to hear what you had to say because, what if it was horrible or like what. And I finally just sat down and I was like, Tamara, you got to do this because tomorrow you have a meeting with him and you can't. It's not something you can't say, I didn't. Because I was afraid. So, and I did it, and I got your feedback, and it wasn't, it wasn't anything you were like, you really know the law. It's not the problem. Let's just work on how you organize your writing. Like everything else is really, the substantive stuff is there, and it made me feel a lot better. Having that feedback was a big help for me.
Right. So you took our personal mentored course, which meant that you were sending work to me and we were reviewing it. So I gather that there was some sense of accountability that you felt in moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think because I had taken the bar exam so many times with no accountability other than to myself, which is, I wanted to pass that bar exam, but there's only so much. That's what works for me. I need somebody saying, listen, I need someone to report to you so that I can, I don't know, bring out the best in me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes a big difference. And I think that part of the process is just finding out what your strengths are and then where you had to work. So in your case, what I recall is that you did know the law. You had a good substantive handle on it, but you had difficulty with how to organize and present it and put it together in a way that the examiners were looking for. And so as we went through that writing process, what did you begin to see happen with your writing? What was the change points for you?
Well, I think that I could see immediately when I'm a pretty good listener, and when you would give me, you gave us, I would say like an equation of like, this is what you need to do. We need an opening, like we need a conclusion, we need application, and whenever I went through my writing and I did what you said, it was easier to write. It was less stressful. I already knew what I wanted to say regarding the law. I knew that. It was just being able to get it out in a way that was understandable to the examiners, like getting it out in a way that was concise and to the point, so that they could grade and read it easily, you know, and get the points that I knew that I could. So
right, and really I think that makes a big difference. Yeah, yeah. No, I think that makes it.
If you looked at that first writing assignment I sent you, and even the next one, which it took a while. I remember it taking a while, excuse me, a while for me to listen to you, because I'm a very stubborn person. And it took me a little bit to actually, I would try to do what you were saying, but you could see it every time. You could see the change and how much better it was flowing and how much easier.
Yeah, and so you. Right, and so that created some confidence for you in some sense of, I can do this. And, part of the challenge when someone's taken the exam a number of times is that they build up this residue of, I can't do it, and it's not going to happen, and nothing's going to be different. Were there moments for you like that of just, wow, am I going to be back at the same old place again?
Yeah. Almost every day. I wouldn't, it was really hard. It was really hard too. But I will say that with doing your course and participating with you and getting that feedback, it was really helpful. It made me want to go in there and show them, like, listen, you're going to say I passed this time. I wanted to pass. It was never that I didn't, it was never that I lost that hope, but it was always, it's really hard when you fail something that many times to think that you can do it, even if you know deep down inside you can.
Right, and I think for people who are listening, and a lot of our folks who are listening and watching are repeat bar takers, and they're really wrestling with those demons, and now they're a couple weeks out from the test, and that's, as you know, when doubt just really creeps up. What advice would you give those folks? A couple weeks before the exam, you're a bar repeater, and you're kind of in that moment. Now what? So I'm not putting you on the spot or anything. But you be me. What would you say?
Listen, my advice to all of you, all of the repeat takers, is that you're in the best position of anyone taking this bar exam. You know what's coming. We all knew. I knew what was coming. There's nothing to be afraid of. There isn't. We all know what kind of questions are going to get asked, and we know what's coming. We don't have to worry about being nervous that first day. The only thing you're nervous about is because you didn't pass it before. And I know, and I'm living proof that you can pass it. I promise you, anybody can do this as long as you work hard, And it's not worth the stress to be upset right now, to stress out, because you're honestly in a better position than anyone coming in that door the first day. They're freaking out. What's
so. I think you're in a way better position than most people.
I went in there, I was like, listen, I know exactly what's going to happen. There's nothing new. The only thing that you need to be focused on is going through what you're going to do that day. This is how I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to relax. This is how, if I feel myself getting worked up, this is what I need to do to calm down, because I know what I need to do.
And how did you stay calm? How did you stay calm through the exam itself?
If I was getting nervous, I think that you told me just to stop a minute and take a couple breaths and calm yourself down and remind yourself that this isn't anything that you haven't seen before. I know that when I was taking the test last time, I would get a little nervous, but I wasn't anywhere near as nervous as I had been any of the previous times taking the test. I don't know if that was, I would listen to the subliminal messages every single morning and every single night before I went to bed, because I knew I had it it was a mental thing that was going on with me. But during the test, I would just stop and take a few minutes and say, listen, there's not, it's better to calm yourself down than to be rushing through something,
Yeah, I think so. And I think being calm and being focused and knowing what's coming and knowing that you've got this under control, you've seen it before, you've done it. And it felt like practice, right? I mean, it felt like what you've been doing in practice leading up to the exam.
Absolutely. It was nothing. It was really nothing different. There was somebody sitting beside me. That was the only
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And they're, and they're just a pain in the butt. So yeah, there you go. Interesting. Well, so you finish the exam, and then you're in that long waiting period, for what's going to happen. What are you thinking about during that period of time? What's it like?
To be honest with you, since I have taken the bar so many times, I know that this is the short period, and I know it seems long to everybody else, but after you've taken it so many times, I'm like, well, this is the time you have to, go and relax a little bit before you get that letter before you get that email, because if it says no, you didn't pass, that's the day you have to sit back down and start all over again. And that's honestly, so I would try to take my mind off of it. Everybody wanted to take me out and celebrate that I took the bar. And at this point, I'm like, guys, we will celebrate whenever I pass the bar.
Yeah. Well, and of course, New York's particularly nasty in the sense that they don't tell you when the results are coming. You just get an email shortly after midnight.
Yeah.
And the whole world sort of knows or doesn't know, and suddenly, the Twitterverse is all crazy and everyone's all over it.
Yeah, it's coming and you want to go to sleep, but it's going to be there at 12. This time it was a little different. I got it, I think it was like 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know what caused that to happen. It was typically it's been like right after midnight. So
yeah, I'll never forget. I was cooking dinner, trying to keep my mind off of it because I knew it was coming. You sent out an email that said, I think the results are going to be coming shortly, just so you guys know. So that was I started making dinner.
I have sources. You're not the only one with sources. Okay. I have sources. Okay.
I started making dinner. And I heard a little, ting on my phone, and I looked at it, and I saw that it was from the bar examiners, and I was like, oh my God. I was so afraid to open it. I'm not going to lie, After you take the bar so many times, you don't know what to expect. You really don't. I was terrified to open it, and I opened it, and it said I passed, and I cried. I just sat in my house by myself and cried, and I forwarded my dad and my gram and Pap and my significant other the email because I couldn't even call. It's funny because my boyfriend was getting on the train, so he thought that I sent him the email because it said I failed because I didn't call him. Because I didn't want to call anybody. I was crying. I just wanted them to see themselves, And he got off the train and saw that I passed and was like, it was very, it was such a relief. I've never been so relieved in my life because that's the one thing I've worked really hard for my entire life. And finally I passed,
Yeah.
And it was it.
That was pretty cool. Yeah. And I've said to other people that I've done these hangouts with, the great moment for me, obviously, is when I find out that a student's passed.
I think
I know that they've achieved it.
I think I sent it to you too.
Yeah. And I'm like, so I get that vicarious thrill as well. I just knew how hard you'd worked and how much perseverance you had and what you'd overcome to get to that point. And it was obvious to me that you had all the ability to be successful on the test and certainly had the ability to practice law. But presenting what the examiners wanted in the way that they wanted it, was really the trick there. And seeing you get that opportunity to demonstrate what you knew, I thought was just a huge thing. And you're really a great story of hanging in there and not being discouraged and not giving up, when a lot of people, frankly, would have given up. They would have said, you know what, it's just not in the cards for me. I can go back to New Jersey and practice. I can, do something else. But you stayed with it. And that attitude of staying with it, to me, is remarkable and admirable. But I also have to say that I like the fact that you made the decision to reach out and do something different. Do you remember how you found us or why you selected this course?
I was actually just searching on the internet because I knew I felt that I had to do something differently, and I knew that what I had been doing in those other review courses didn't work. And I also knew that I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for anything, but I know that I have a pretty good support network, and if it came down to it, I could ask some of my family for help. And I was searching on the internet, and I think I Googled the best bar exam review course for repeat takers, because I knew that if I took a big box course again, they were going to go through all of this stuff that I would feel I already know this. I get frustrated when I do things over and over again and I don't get any results. So I Googled it. I read a lot I read like everything I could find about your course. I read a lot of reviews. I read a lot of like bad reviews too, but it seemed to me that the reviews that were bad were people who
were bad reviews? Wait a minute. They're bad reviews? How could that be?
People who didn't want to do what
I know. Isn't that crazy?
And it was, you could kind of see it in the reviews. So I was like, I kind of just brushed them aside. And I think I chatted with you a couple times because I was on your website a lot.
Yeah.
And so I asked you about a couple of, the differences between the packages. And I knew that I needed somebody to be accountable to. So that's why I chose the mentoring one. Because if I didn't, I'm not sure, but that's me. I know how I am and I know how I work. So I also needed a structure. I needed a structure to follow that wasn't what I had been doing for the past 3 years, frankly.
And how many and so how many hours would you say you were studying on a weekly basis?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would always wake up and do your assignments. And literally, I would do the assignments in the amount of hours that you suggested on all of your syllabus. Because I know there were times.
Okay, folks, I want you to listen to this. I want you to hear what she's saying. She's doing exactly what I told her to do. Okay, fine.
No, I didn't. Well, listen, it worked. So, and I'm honestly not making this up. I know the first couple assignments I take a long time to read stuff, but it's because I go over it a number of times because I want it to be in my memory so I don't ever have to go back. And I was taking longer than your suggested reading times. And I think that you kind of picked that up without me telling you. And you had told me, listen, I really spell everything out for you and I give you time. This assignment should only take this long. So I got to the point where if I was going over that time, I would stop and I would, skim the rest or something, but I would make it. I got to a point where no matter what assignment I was doing it within the time, if not a little bit faster than what you were suggesting. Because once you got the hang of it, you were, that's what happens when practice makes perfect. So you get faster at it. And I wouldn't do anything, that was what I did because I was also working, except for I think the 2 weeks before the exam, but I only worked part-time. So during the day I would do all of the all of the stuff on the syllabus, and then I would go to work after I was done with that, like in the afternoon. And a lot of things I do at work are at night too. So it worked out fine. And I was my boss was also pretty flexible because he wanted me to pass the bar. Everybody was pretty
well, and working in politics and with a political campaign and all the pressure that goes with that. So, and it's not like nothing was going on in Albany back then.
No.
So, well, this has really been exciting to hear and sort of to catch up with you. Do you have any sort of final advice that you would give to people who are getting ready for the exam in a couple weeks, whether they're retaking or first-time takers? I mean, what would you say to them right now?
You know, I would really just say that you need every one of you need to just believe in yourself, because you can do it. If you've been doing this course, if you've been studying, if you've been putting the work in, it's just a stupid test. It's just a stupid test that you have to overcome. And the only thing that holds anybody back, I really feel, is themselves, because they don't think they can do it. And I promise you that you can.
Yeah.
I think,
yeah,
I mean,
that's
I don't
great.
really know what else to say.
No, I think that's perfect. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm so proud of you and so pleased for you. And I know that you're going to be a terrifically successful attorney in New York. We were talking a little bit before we went on camera, and I asked if you were going to be running for political office, and you said no, but I think you should. I think you'd be a great candidate. But that's just me. So if anyone's looking, you know, Tamara Slogosky, you know, you heard it first, you know, when she makes it all the way up into the big leagues, you'll know. But you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and share your story with our watchers and listeners. It's really impressive on so many levels, but I just think it's fabulous that you've reached for this goal. You kept at it. You persevered. You took my notes and direction. You didn't give up. You just kept fighting for your goal, and you kept believing in yourself. Maybe when other people weren't so willing to do it, and that is really it's so impressive. And I'm just delighted for you, delighted for your success. Really pleased that we could be a part of that and part of what you've accomplished. And so this is fun. The reason I do these hangouts, yeah, it helps other people, but really I just love to see, you know, students like you that I don't get to connect with so often. So thanks again. It's great to have you here today. And I wish you all the best as you go forward. And please stay in touch. And we'll sign off for today in this episode of Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Students. There she is, folks, a successful bar exam student. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.